Welcome to Besties and Bubbles.
It's my favorite day.
Yay!
We
Podcast day.
Love podcast day.
We do.
Ooh, before I sip, this is your little concoction. What did you do, Kimmy?
So this was on the socials, and we thought we would give it a try.
It smells good.
It does smell good. So what it is an addition of frozen sliced jalapenos to our bubbles. So I don't know. I mean, when we put them in, it bubbled up and made it very effervescent.
Like it's a magic show.
It is. And it was so pretty. And I feel like you can smell it.
Oh, it smells good.
Ooh,
for sure.
Right? How did it taste?
I also think they've been sitting in here a little bit, right? I can actually taste it now a little bit. I'm a little worried about the seeds that are floating. Have you had a seed?
I think I have, and I think the alcohol kind of drowns it out a bit.
Drowns out the seed. Well,
I would say
if you see me hacking, it's because I have a seed in my mouth. It smells
the smell is delicious.
It smells like a salad and tastes like a drink.
Yeah. I'm not really, I don't know. What do you give? Thumbs up? Thumbs down?
So far, yes, until I get a seed and I have a heart attack.
Okay.
You know, they put mint in drinks.
Oh, they put all kinds of things in drinks.
With other vegetables other than mint? Basil, that's true.
Basil, rosemary.
Rosemary is in drinks. You're right.
Cucumber.
Yeah. So I'm asking because I don't know. A tomato is considered a fruit because it has seeds.
This is true.
Do you think this is a fruit because it has seeds? I don't know. I really don't know.
I don't know. Do our friends know? I don't know. I am not.
A jalapeno doesn't seem
I'm not
like a fruit.
an aficionado on that, despite what you may all think.
What word is that? Aficionado?
Aficionado.
Like an official?
Like
a fancier official?
Yeah, like a perfectionist or an official on something.
Okay.
Yeah,
great.
Aficionado. So
so far so good, and cheers.
So we like it. Cheers.
Yeah, we like
cheers.
It. Give it a try.
Okay.
Tell us what you think. Or what other vegetables you put in your drinks.
Right. Or fruit too. Right? Berries.
Fruit's easy.
We like berries.
But a vegetable seems a little
It's a different pairing for, I would say, a cocktail.
Yeah, but like they do it with tequila all the time.
Yes.
You know, like they do that.
Yeah.
Like
they're supposed to be like the yin and the yang.
Yeah.
Right?
What's the name of that? Yeah. Anyway, definitely they do sweet and spicy.
Yeah, like a savory thing.
Yeah.
So
like tahini on the end, like a tequila drink.
Like a margarita.
Like a margarita.
So good.
Margarita.
So good.
I heard it was like a National Martini Day. Did you know that? Today?
Martini Day?
There's a Martini Day.
All right. Who knew?
I saw it on Lisa's Facebook page, so I don't know. Maybe it's true or not. So anyway, now that we've got all of that,
and the fun,
what are we going to talk about today, Kimmy?
Well, friend, I think that we were going to discuss some things that are very personal to us, stories that hit the heartstrings, and we feel that our friends might experience or have gone through some things that we're going to share today and so forth, that can be a benefit, right? Because we've gone through them. If you're going through them, you're not alone, because we've been there. And the good news is we kind of made it.
We made it on the other side.
We made it to the other side.
Yeah.
So, and it's, it's sometimes difficult to talk about these things, right? But I think it's good to talk about these things.
I agree.
Right?
I agree. If it can help anybody know that they're not alone, if it can help anybody know how to get help, or maybe there's a reason why they're feeling this way, then I think it's definitely worth talking about. And so a couple years ago, it was about 2 years ago, in the summertime, I started feeling very low, is what I would say.
Yeah.
And Kim and I were very good friends at the time, just the same way. We were working out 5 days a week and going out and, all that stuff. So I would share with you, either
Mhm.
not sleeping or, not feeling great, and things like that. And it really was a couple months of that until I was absolutely exhausted of just thinking. It just kept building up, and
Yeah.
it just kept building up, and it felt like my life was really heavy.
Mhm.
Um, and it wasn't from anything like one thing that
It
happened.
wasn't like one particular
It
incident
wasn't like I had a child
happened.
that was sick.
Right.
I wasn't
Or
going
something
right.
majorly catastrophic that happened.
Right,
Right.
exactly.
Yeah.
It was maybe a couple areas in my life that weren't going great,
Right.
and it took a couple months until I got some help and I was on the other side, and then I shared it on Facebook. And the reason why I shared it on Facebook was because I wanted people to understand. I am a very happy person. I enjoy my life. I go out a lot.
You do.
Kim and I generally have a great time. I have a great time being out with a number of friends and things like
Mhm.
that. And I didn't want people to think that um, just because you are happy that you can't have unhappy times.
For
And
sure.
so
For
I
sure.
did share this on Facebook, but what it had happened was I realized there were a couple fractured friendships. There were two friendships that I wish were different.
Mhm.
Wasn't like anybody was harassing me. There were no restraining orders. Again, nothing catastrophic.
Right.
I wasn't losing people from my life. I was just confused as to how I was being treated, I think, maybe more or less. Um, Real estate was slow for me that year. And that's how I make money to pay my bills. I'm a single mom paying a mortgage. So I think that was stress.
Right.
But on the
Yeah.
flip side, it wasn't like I was losing my house. I wasn't late on a payment. I was just stressed probably about maybe not being as busy as I had been
Sure.
before.
Sure.
Um,
Which can happen to all
yeah,
of us, right? I mean, we all have everyday stressors.
yeah.
So, and I guess, from that, like, how did you recognize that, okay, everyday stress, this isn't really everyday stress?
I my point where I totally needed help was the day I couldn't
Mhm.
get out of bed.
Okay.
And I shared this with you after the fact, I think. But my good friend Alex was out of state and a really good friend to me at the time, and he was like, just rest your eyes. I'm just gonna stay with you. And we FaceTimed for like hours. He stayed on
Mm-hmm.
the phone with me for hours, and it's because he had gone through his own personal struggles about depression, if you want to call it that, or not feeling 100%, with mental wellness.
Right.
So I don't know. I don't want to be putting a label on how I felt. I don't know that I was necessarily, depressed, but I was really sad. And I
Yeah.
was overly sad about things that I should not have been overly sad about.
I do remember
But I
because
couldn't control it, Kim.
we talked about it.
I was working
We're
out.
trying to talk about, yes, you had your health, your children were healthy,
My
your
kids were
grandchildren,
healthy.
everyone was healthy.
I put my butt in the pool and swam for 2 hours straight,
Yeah.
thinking I need to work out more. Like this one thing is going to fix
Right.
it.
Right.
And it didn't. But I remember trying to do everything that was right. I had confided in you. I had talked to my friend Alex. I was getting up out of bed, but then I was going right back to bed.
Yeah.
You know, I just couldn't get out of what I will say was a funk or a period of sadness.
Right.
Um, if there's ever been a time in my life where I was depressed, that's what I would say it was. But I don't
Yeah.
know. I don't want to throw that word around. But it was definitely a scary time.
Yeah. And how long would you say that period lasted?
It it was a couple months.
Okay.
It wasn't until probably October, and I remember in the summer. So from somewhere in the summer till October,
Yeah.
that I was like, I need a better plan because I was getting to the point day after day after day of like lack of sleep and feeling sadness where I really didn't think my life had the type of worth I know it does have. and I don't mean to throw that around or allude to anything, terrible, but I was afraid
Yeah.
that if I were going to keep feeling like this and there was no way out, that maybe I would be in a really dark place. I knew I was in a dark place,
Yeah.
but I was worried about that, where I was actually creating ways for me to get out of that dark place and they weren't healthy.
Right.
And
Right.
once I knew that, I have enough knowledge in my head. We're like, wait a minute, if people start planning that they would be better off,
Yeah.
that their loved ones would be better off if they aren't
If they
here,
weren't there.
then
Yes.
that is they absolutely have a problem. So I swung the pendulum from doing nothing really to going the other way.
Yeah. What did
And
you?
the catalyst was, Tony. Do you remember this?
Mm,
My high school friend had just like sent a random text like, "Hey, what's up? How you doing?" Blah blah blah. And I was like, "Not good. Life sucks." Like
right.
maybe what people say. And
Right.
he was like,
Living the dream.
you
Whatever.
know what I mean?
Not.
Like
Yeah.
this and that, blah blah blah, whatever. And he called
Mm.
me. He's like, "This isn't you. What's going on?" First, he called me and I didn't answer. Then he called me again. I didn't answer. And then he said, "Pick up the fucking phone."
Sounds like what he'd say.
And I said, and so I'm like, called again, and I said, "Hey, I'm fine. It's a day." And he goes, "No, what's going on? What do you need?" And he said, this man, our age, right? A friend
Yeah.
said, "Have you had your hormones checked lately?" And I was like, "What do you know about
Okay.
hormones?"
You're a dude.
But had I had my
Mm.
hormones checked? No. You know? He's like, I will not allow you to be this low. And I did. I actually, like, he opened the door. I walked through. He was
Yeah.
very
Yeah.
resourceful, and he was like, "Whatever you need, I'm going to help you." And it was such an
That's so
unlikely
nice,
source. It was
though.
such an unlikely source.
Right?
This is not a day-to-day friend. This is a friend that, like, there was a reason why that
Absolutely.
he called me that day. He had
Mhm.
sent a text. He didn't like my text. He called me, answer the phone. You know what I mean? And I think that was the catalyst.
Okay.
And the information that I had with him on the phone was, we have to find a reason why you're like this. This isn't normal. This isn't
Right.
you.
This isn't
Where's the
you.
Tracy I know?
Right.
You
Right.
know?
And again, going back to the fact that there wasn't one major thing that you could track back
Mm-mm.
to say, oh, okay,
This
well,
is why I
this
felt
is
so
why I
sad.
feel so. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
I couldn't.
Yeah.
And I, on Facebook, I apologized, but I
Mm.
said, because you got a front row seat to, like, how awful I felt.
Wow.
And I apologize for that, because I know that you, like, were, I think I stressed you out, babe. And
Well,
I,
because it was so difficult to pinpoint.
yeah,
Like, I remember we would go through, like,
yeah,
you know, it's
yeah,
good.
yeah. And so Bible study started again,
Mm-hmm.
and that was in September.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, and so I think that's when it was, like, late September or something. And so Kim and I do a women's Bible study on
We
Tuesday
do.
nights at my church in Lombard.
Yeah.
And it once this guy, his, like, not acceptable, drawing the line, blah blah blah. And it's felt so unusual for him to be pressing me. Like, if you guys knew who it was, you'd be like, what?
Right.
That I was like, okay, I'm gonna take his, what do I have to lose, right?
Right.
So I made an appointment with my doctor, and I had my levels checked. I contacted the leader of our women's ministry in our church, which is
Right.
a female
Mm-hmm.
pastor, and I said, I need to come and talk to you. And I said, it was coming up on the day that it had been the day that my brother had died, and it was coming up on his birthday. That's what it was. So it was early
Yes.
September.
Yeah.
My brother's birthday, my brother who passed away, his birthday was September 7th. And I remember thinking, like, I've gone through this before. This
is
was
true. I have seen you
every
Yes.
year, right?
Mhm.
It's like holidays, and
Sure.
other people that have lost
Of course.
people they love,
Of
they know that it's like
course.
holidays, the anniversary of them dying, which is very unusual. It's like on my birthday, right? And then their birthday and holidays and things like that. When you don't have family members,
Yeah.
it's a heavy load. And sometimes people share it with you, and sometimes people don't.
Right.
You know, and and so at that time, I thought, well, maybe that's just what it was, but you know what I mean? Like everything was adding up. So like I said, I swung the pendulum, and I think the catalyst was Tony. And I went to the doctor. I had blood work done. I took advice of my doctor. I took advice of my pastor. I stopped drinking. I stopped drinking for that month. I
Mm-hmm.
was like, it's just not going to help me if
Right.
alcohol's a depressant.
Mhm.
Like let's not keep making it worse,
Right.
you know.
Right.
And I got better. It was a number of different things. I couldn't say it was one thing, but it was a number of different things where I felt like I was able, because I reached out for help,
Mm-hmm.
because I was honest with that one person on the phone. You know what I
Right.
mean? That
Right.
was like, nope, not letting this fly. We're doing, he's like, I'll send you my doctor. I'm like, I don't need your doctor,
Yeah.
But because somebody else was so alarmed that it was like, maybe I should be worried too. So that's what happened. And I got better, you
Yeah.
know?
You did. You did. Did was there any conversation, or did your doctor like say, hey, maybe we should prescribe some medication for you?
Yeah,
Or
we
because
had,
obviously there's a lot of things we can do
yeah,
non medication,
yes,
right?
yes,
And there's also medication, and I feel that medication shouldn't necessarily have a stigma to it,
for
because
sure.
if it helps you, it helps you.
I say that about
We're
everything.
not talking about like, an addiction. We're just
Right.
saying that
Yeah.
if it will help you, who
Yeah.
cares?
If it's a chemical that's going to make you feel better, or if it's
Mm.
like, I will equate that to like, Botox. If that makes you feel better and it's not unhealthy, then do your thing. So, yes, I talked to my doctor. We explored all options and
Okay.
made a decision together. And I talked to my pastor too,
Okay.
my female pastor. And she was a phenomenal help. She's also someone that has lost her brother and knows that sadness.
Sure.
And so it
Absolutely.
was so easy to relate to her,
Yeah.
at that time too. I felt very seen.
Yeah. But also a blessing,
Yes.
because you don't necessarily find people
Right.
that are in that type of situation as
Yeah.
you, that
Yeah.
you can say it and they can say, I truly know,
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
know.
And she really can. And we both have many years between the time that our brothers have died and there's still a heaviness
Yeah.
where some people will be like, really, Trace, it was 2011. No, I'm sad all the
Yeah.
time.
Yeah, of
If I
course.
allow myself, I can be sad all the time, and I actually can be angry about the situation. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
I
And
rightfully
honestly, the
so.
the grace of God allows me to not focus on that.
Yeah.
So again, it wasn't just like one thing. It was a bunch of things, and it just put me in this hole. I will say it felt dark, and I will say that you were there for me every day. Um, Alex came through when I just felt like I couldn't get through the day, and Tony pushed me to go get help.
Yeah.
And that, if you know those three people, those three are random people in my life.
And in no way, shape, or form, like, like, I don't even know how you could do a connect the dots.
Not
Like,
at all. But
yeah.
that's why I think it was God.
Yeah.
And I recognized that, and I did, and it did push me to get the help that I needed. And since then, I've been so much better. And so in November,
Mm-hmm.
I had just done the Lumbar Juniors had just done this pub crawl, and I
Oh,
had. Do you
right.
remember that?
Was that Thanksgiving or
It had
something
to be
or
something around
whatever?
there. We had
Yeah.
costumes.
Or maybe it was
Chris
Halloween
O'Brien
or
was
whatever.
there, and Catherine Snyder and Mariah Ramey, and it was just so fun. Um, and I had such a good time And I remember feeling such joy from that
Yeah.
night that prompted me to say, it was like I took, I put a thermometer in my mouth and I was like, oh, you're fine. You're good.
Yeah.
That was I just look back at what a fun day I had
Right.
with these people. Now they didn't know anything of what was going on with me.
Sure.
Those are it
Sure.
wasn't you, it wasn't any of these
Yeah.
were it
Yeah.
was people that didn't know anything. And I just had a blast. And I remember thinking, I'm good.
Yeah. It was like your litmus test
It
to,
was. It was. It
yeah.
was. So
So it was a season. It was a
yes,
season.
I
And
recognized that I was in a different spot. I felt better. I felt good.
yeah.
And that's when I said, I should really share this.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah, you did.
I
You
did
did.
make a Facebook post. And before I did, I called my kids and I said, hey, I kind of been going through a thing this past couple
Yeah.
months, and whether you noticed or not, and I just
Yeah.
want you to know I'm putting it out there. And some people can say that that's ridiculous and you shouldn't share too much or whatever. I mean, there's you can find a critic for everything,
Of
right? But
course.
to
Of
me,
course.
it was very well thought out. And going back to our podcast from last week, I wrote it. I wrote it again. I corrected it. I made it just perfect.
Sure.
And what I got in return from sharing my story and being, I would say, vulnerable
Mm-hmm.
and honest is so many people reached out to me.
Which is
Um,
wonderful.
yes. And they said, I've been there or I am there,
Yeah.
you know?
Yes.
And it's not like I'm any kind of medical person or whatever, but I was their Tony.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
It was like,
Or for
not
them,
good.
yeah,
Yeah.
for them to just say it was almost like a thank you, right?
Yeah.
For putting it out there. Again, like you said, it made you feel vulnerable,
Yeah.
but that's the whole
Mm.
point of this is we're real and people are vulnerable. And if you have the ability to or the opportunity to touch someone that is going through what you're feeling and
Mm-hmm.
going through, then and help them in any way, shape, or form, then that's huge,
Yeah.
right?
And it's kind of maybe there's somebody in your life that isn't acting normal.
Yeah.
Maybe they're
And you don't
not.
even know it. You don't even know it.
You just sense maybe something's a little
Yeah.
bit wrong,
Yeah.
and they're just jonesing for you to ask them.
Yeah. Because
You know what I mean?
I'm
Like
gonna
that could just
guess
be that.
it's I mean, it it's not an everyday thing to just say, "Hey, I'm not
Yeah.
all mentally together,"
Right.
right? Like
Right.
it's not like you had that conversation.
And I couldn't even have it with you.
No, I know.
What
That's
I
what I'm
was, what
saying.
you knew
Mhm.
were symptoms.
Yes.
You didn't know I was in bed all day.
Right.
You would have came and got me dressed and been like,
Right.
you're getting
Yeah.
in the shower.
Right.
I didn't want you to know
Right.
because I was so close to you. All you knew is I was tired. I was
Yes.
overwhelmed.
Yes. But others may be in that same
Absolutely. And
position.
so I
And
feel like dig.
yeah, yeah. Well, in your position, feeling and going through that, and
Yeah.
in my position, being someone that cares for
Yeah.
you, that was clueless ish.
Yeah.
Let's just say that,
Yeah.
right? So,
And my situation may be a little have been dramatic because it was so long and because it was really months. But I was talking to somebody last night
yeah,
and unprompted, he shared a story about his kids were gone, they were on vacation,
yeah,
divorce situation, and he had a week off of work and stuff, and he just felt like he just couldn't get off the couch,
yeah,
wouldn't answer the phone.
yeah,
And I didn't know him at the time, and he's
yeah,
telling me the story,
yeah.
but like if there's somebody in your life that's just checked out abnormally for a
Right,
week.
right. That who is bubbly
Yeah.
and very outgoing
Yeah.
and an
Right.
extrovert.
Yes, they're the least likely person to put something on social media like, "I'm really going through some stuff. Can
Right.
somebody call me?"
Exactly.
Right?
Exactly.
It's kind of like check on your friends,
Yes. Yeah. Right.
But it was interesting to hear that because I don't often hear men feeling that way.
Absolutely.
And it was really a
Absolutely.
vulnerable conversation that he
Yeah.
was having, and I accept that because I feel like that was meant to be because I knew we were going to be talking about this today. And so that's just another example that maybe somebody, a male or female, can relate to, is like where you just feel like you just can't, and it's only been a couple days, but you just can't, you just don't feel like
Yeah.
you can really get off the couch, or you're not
It's not like a
going to
snap.
work, you're
It's
not
not a
taking your
snap
care.
out of it,
Yes, yes.
because I think that's our initial reaction.
Yeah,
Our instinct is even to tell ourselves,
yeah,
oh, just snap out of it.
yeah,
Like, get out of your funk,
yeah.
like you said, and get on with your day and move on.
Yes, because I was exercising, I was drinking water, I was saying no to a lot of social things, but I was still going out
Right.
somewhat enough
Right.
to like where people weren't. I was trying to hide it. I was
Yeah.
100%
Yeah.
trying to hide it.
And I think that's actually interesting that you use that word or phrase, to hide it, because maybe, our friends out there are feeling that same way. Also, and mostly because you probably don't want to burden your family or your friends
But
with this issue that you're having.
I didn't want to burden my kids. Had no idea.
Yeah.
You had a front row, but
Yeah.
my kids didn't have any idea. I didn't want to burden them, but I also didn't want to be perceived as weak. I'm not a weak
Yeah.
person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, I
Yeah.
handle my shit. I go,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? So I didn't want to be perceived that way. And so I
Yeah.
didn't want to admit
Yeah.
that I was feeling weak.
Right. But in actuality, it's
not weakness.
It's a strong thing to do, because you did make yourself vulnerable.
Yes.
By coming out and saying, this is how
Yeah.
I'm feeling.
Yeah.
And I need help.
And I've never had a week
Yeah.
like that since.
Yeah.
I've had days maybe where we're just like, ugh, people
Right.
are aggravating.
Of
We have those
course.
days.
We all do.
This, for me, it was months.
Yeah.
But I've never
Yeah.
even had like a couple days strung together since then. And it's because I think I found the help that I needed, and I changed my behavior.
Yeah.
And I think that's really where the gold was. And it's because I was honest.
You were.
I was honest about
Yeah.
how I felt. I got the help that I needed. And, and that's why I shared it.
Yeah.
That's why I shared it, because I think some people feel like everyone should be happy all the time. And we know that's not true.
No.
It's not true.
I mean, we want to be happy all the time.
I am very happy.
You are happy. I mean,
I enjoy my life. I love my
Yeah.
life. I love my friends. My family is great. Like, I love my job. I am.
Yes.
I am a happy person.
Yes.
I'm very blessed that I have the things in my life.
Right.
And
you practice gratitude.
I do.
So
I do.
I think that
I practice a good morning routine that sets me in a mood for a day too.
You do.
I think
You
it's
do.
very important. Yeah.
I think that that you were very brave to be able to do what you did, and I think that because of that, you've grown yourself.
Yeah.
Right. You have touched others.
Hopefully.
For them, absolutely. And I mean, within our circles, and obviously on the socials, and hopefully now, you'll be touching others as well. And
I hope
it's
so.
It's from your perspective, and it is from my perspective as well, to make sure that you are checking on your friends, and if something is a little off, it's okay to ask the questions from the friend, and it's okay to say, I'm not feeling good. I need some help.
Yeah.
And maybe that's all it is. I need some help. I don't know where to go. I don't know where to start, but I just need some help.
And it's okay to use the fact that you just heard the story in the podcast. We do this all the time on other issues. I'd be like, I saw this on the podcast, Kim, this and that. What do you think about that? And maybe that's if you sense that someone in your small circle is feeling low, or maybe they've been checked out of social gatherings, or something like that. And say, hey, I watched this podcast and something, it kind of sounds a little familiar about you. Use that. And be like, how are you doing? Like, I'm encouraged to ask you how you're doing, and if there's a way I can help. And hopefully that opens up the door.
Yeah. Yeah. And you can have, that catalyst.
Yeah.
You can have that catalyst friend. You can have that friend that's, always been there, that's maybe getting drips and drabs of what's going on.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I think at the end of the day, we say, when you see something, say something. When you feel
Kim
something,
just said that on the
when you
podcast
feel
last week.
something, say something
Yeah,
also, right?
absolutely.
Because, we all matter
Yes.
at the end of the day.
And Kimmy loves me so much.
I do.
I have another funny story to tell about Kimmy that you don't know I'm going to say.
Oh, maybe I'll take a sip of this.
When we started this podcast, we had an idea of what we would do and where we would record and what our backdrop would be. And I sent her this backdrop and I said, I think this would be killer.
I know what you're going to say.
And she says, are you sure? I'm like, oh, yes. And it comes in these pieces and this and that. And you're like, she wasn't a fan.
Well, I liked it.
She liked it when it was done, but she wasn't a fan about how it was going to be set up. Do you know why she wasn't a fan? Tell them, Kimberly, what you thought I was asking you to do.
Well, we have this beautiful backdrop, which is a series of
little tiny squares. She thought we were going to have to hang each one of these squares.
One by one.
What? And I want you all to know, it didn't come that way, obviously. They were in bigger things. But Kim agreed to it, knowing in her mind, she thought we were going to have to hang each square.
I was planning on for a couple hours, bringing a couple bottles of bubbles and just putting these little suckers together.
That's how much she loves me. I adore it. It's a great story because when it came, she's like, oh, I didn't know that that's what she was saying. I didn't know why she was like, being opposed to it. I thought this was right up her alley. She just thought it was each little square we'd have to hang on this whole big thing.
Yeah.
So funny. So thank you for being my friend. Even when you think I'm crazy, you thought I was crazy ordering this. You're like, okay, we'll
just
do it, Tracy. We'll do it. And thank God you didn't have to do that. But anyway. Yes. And thank you for loving me and hearing me and always making me feel seen.
Absolutely.
I know I'm a little kooky and crazy and nutso, and you make me feel seen, and I really appreciate that. Thank you.
And you deserve it. You absolutely deserve it.
I accept that.
So, friends, cheers to you. Cheers to each other. And cheers to jalapenos in your
we like that.
In your bubbles.
I like the jalapenos. They got better as I went on.
I think so.
I think it's because they're melting and molting.
So
maybe
more to try, friends.
Thanks for staying with us while I shared my story. I appreciate that. I hope it helps.
Yeah, we love you. Ciao.